All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Georgetown STARTALK-TECH Fall Webinar Series. This is the fourth and final webinar in the series, so we're very eager to get started. I'll do a brief little introduction and I will hand things over to our guest speaker. Really quickly, just want to plug our next StarTalk program here at Georgetown, StarTalk-C. This is a task-based instruction for learners of Chinese. So if you or anyone you know would like to come to Georgetown and learn Chinese for a week, applications are out now and will be available until March 1st. So you can scan that QR code or go to our website and find more information on that if you're interested. And really briefly, I'd just like to introduce our guest speaker today. This is Dr. Amanda Lanier. She is the director of the Foreign Language Teaching Graduate Programs at Michigan State University and faculty in the Center for Language Teaching Advancement, excuse me. She is an applied linguist who focuses on social and cultural aspects of language learning, teacher cognition, and corpus-based analysis of language in use. So we are very excited to have her here today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so she can share her slides. Oops. Great. Let's see. Alrighty.
So we are trying to sort out the sharing so that I can look at you and then not have you see your own. How's that look? Good? Go back to the beginning? Yes?
Looks good.
Great. Okay, well, I'm just delighted to be here. I had the pleasure of coming to Washington in October for the meeting of the Coalition of Community-Based Heritage Language Schools. And that was a great conference. It's a really good small conference. Lots of little teachers there. But then stopped into the offices there for the ALRC and got to meet Jana and Andrew in person. And Laura wasn't there, but we were able to sit down and talk about various things that are going on in the world. So I have been teaching for 20 years, more than 20 years, but mostly English in my language teaching. And then I did my PhD in applied linguistics at Michigan State after spending 4 years overseas in the Czech Republic. So I studied Czech and Serbian while I was gone, French when I was younger, and then came back and did my master's project focusing on a teacher of Japanese, and then my dissertation focusing on young learners of Arabic. And then also did research on students in an online course that was really groundbreaking for online learning at that time. It was in 2006 that course took place. But so I had studied online learning when I got this job, in addition to working with teachers of additional languages other than English, which is not that common in our field for us to do intensive work in applied linguistics and not focus on English. And so in this program, we teach students of 20 different languages, students and alumni now. And I've had my fingers in just about every single course that we teach. I've been teaching online for 12 years, running this program this is my 7th year running the program. So there's this huge admin component that I've been learning. But also I have the privilege of having fabulous colleagues who work with me. So my other 2 core faculty, one of them is Fred Poole, who gave the session last time. And so you, I'm sure, learned a lot from Fred about AI and language learning. And he, of course, is a rock star and is terrific to work with and a wonderful person to work with. And the same for Bruna Samafarias, who came out of Arizona, where they have Circle, which is the Language Resource Center focusing on culture and intercultural competence. And then we together also run a professional development project through the National Language Resource Center for Less Commonly Taught Languages. And that project means that we have up to 10 fellows a year. We're in our 3rd year, who are LICTL instructors, and they're based all over the country. And so what that means is that I've worked with teachers of many different languages and with many different backgrounds. And it tends to be very tech intensive, partly because of the online medium. And then also we work in a lot of technology into our courses. That said, I'm not the tech guru for our faculty. So I'm pretty darn techie compared to a lot of other language educators, but I'm not the relative expert on our faculty. So that's when I say that, my husband would laugh at me for saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do. But it's usually in terms of how the tech really enriches what we're doing. And my wheelhouse, my favorite place to sit in terms of what we focus on in language teaching is culture and intercultural competence. And so that's where I wanted to really make some good connections between culture and technology for you. So we have a small group. So I'm going to get rolling and go fairly quickly through the points that I wanted to make to you about language learning and technology. And then when we get to the end of this, then I want you to tell me what you want more of. So we can kind of back up and say, okay, let's go deeper on this because that's what we really want to focus on. Does that sound good? Okay. So case in point, we're going to do something with Poll Everywhere here. Do you want to try this and get Poll Everywhere going? So you have options. You can do it in an app. You can just text it. You can go in another browser window if you want. This first one is just asking you to say hello and introduce. So you're saying your name, language, and teaching context. And I'm a 5-screen kind of girl. So I'm going to be over here with my screen open and see what we're doing. Let's see. And I need to rock and roll because we're already at 4:12. Gosh. All right. So I should be seeing you. All right. And then Kate, what do you teach? So getting rolling.
Hi, I'm trying to add here.
That's okay.
I am not actively teaching. I work at College Board on the advanced placement program. So I work with French, Italian, German, and Spanish, but we also have Chinese and Japanese here. So I'm here in that capacity.
Great. Do you happen to know James Getchius?
I do not.
No? Okay. One of my alums works on AP Italian. All right.
Oh,
So
great.
Great. Okay, we're going to rock and roll. All right. I'm going to come back and show you Extempore. Let's not go too deep into Extempore. Extempore would love to show you more about what they do. I will point back to that, but that's just an example of one of the many apps that's out there that will set you up with activities that you can do with your learners. It's a good way to deliver speaking activities that gives you a video Dropbox, audio Dropbox, ways to give feedback right in there. So it's a good app. I'll come back to it if you want to go deeper on it. This link gives you the option to become a student in a class that I'm using as a demo. And so you'd have to create an account to do that. If you're comfortable with doing that, then go for it. And would one of you please put the link in the chat again, John or Andrew, and then we can come back to that. But what I've done is I've built in reflection rubrics on intercultural competence that you can then copy and use. So now let's get into the actual content here. So I like to start off the culture course by really disrupting the way that you define culture. So culture is one of those words that's a conceptual tool in our field that's very specific, and people, you grow up with that word, you know this word, it's been in your vocabulary a long time, it's even often a cognate across languages. But what is it really? Can you define it? Can you define it concisely? And so we do a lot of breaking that open. But when we teach culture, we talk about the F's, the big F's, right? Food, flags, festivals, maybe fashion, maybe family. What else that we include is teaching culture. So this is also on Poll Everywhere. That they're just these topics that we include, and we include them as cultural content for the most part. And so many instructors, don't feel bad if this is true of you, that many instructors, when they're teaching culture, they're thinking of cultural content, and it's usually in these categories that tend to be sort of the names of textbook chapters, and you have lists of vocabulary, and then you also have a little culture bite, right, in your textbook. And a lot of us grew up studying culture that way, and then we still teach culture that way. And so here we go. Structure. Okay. All right. So when we start talking about intercultural competence, we don't just talk about getting away from topics, but we talk about taking them and unpacking them so that when we're working with a given product, practice, or procedure, we know what we want to gain from it. And it's not just that it belongs to a different culture, it's that it makes us aware of differences in perspectives, that we do comparisons, that we're using more complex skill sets, and that there's a reason that we would interpret something differently. So what do you call that game with a ball that's black and white and you only use your feet in that game?
Football.
Or,
Soccer.
right? So this particular football happens not to be black and white, so that doesn't help very much. But even, so if we say sports, common textbook topic, right? And if we say football, it's going to be heard differently, interpreted differently. And then if we're going to talk about sports, the intercultural take on that would be that we not only say football is very popular in Spain, but we would say, what does it mean to the Spanish? What kinds of practices are in play in relation to soccer? What's the perception of it? You might look at the soccer clubs. You might look at fandom as an element, that there are things where you're looking at what it means within its context. And it's not just that we know that it's popular. But we might use a stimuli for that. We might look at images. We might look at videos. There are lots of other things we might use as input so that we can learn about what soccer means to people in a given country. Then we go to, okay, so if we said, all right, we're going to do clothing, right? So color, red, clothing, skirt, run a search. And then what happens? We get some really, really different red skirts. All of these are red skirts, but the pictures of these red skirts are not cultural neutral, are they? Each one of these, the picture that you choose to represent a red skirt sends a very different cultural message, gives very different cultural information. And if you were to search for it on the wide open web, you would get very different responses. But again, looking at ways you could incorporate something from the web, from an online shopping site, or from an Instagram feed where they're giving you advice about fashion. It could be all sorts of things you could use as input. What about a good friend? The definition of a good friend. So we might have memes. So here's a friend's meme, when you and your friends say the same thing at the same time. But then what about this? Is this a good friend? It's cute. I find it a little tiny bit disturbing. There's a couple of shows out right now that are really talking about artificial intelligence that make it a little more disturbing than it was. But you can interact with a chatbot. Some people lose sight of reality when they're interacting with chatbots, but you can. Meme generators, chats with AI. And so already we're seeing lots of different things that could be what we use for input when we're talking about culture. And like I said, that nothing is culture neutral, that usually almost anything that we bring in as input is going to have this intercultural flavor to it that we could take advantage of and that we don't want to ignore, because we might be sending a message we're not intending to send. So now there's another point I wanted to make, and that is, if we talk about online learning or a learning community, for one thing, a lot of people don't believe it's possible to have an online learning experience and a true community, or to have that feel like a real community to you. And we beg to differ in our program. We work at it. This is a presentation that my students gave with me to emphasize that we work at making this community reality. And the point I want to make here is that we're using technology, but at that point, technology is making something entirely possible where we are creating a kind of culture. We are creating culture in this program. The program has its own culture, and that's the same thing in your classroom. Your classroom has its own culture. You are creating ways of behavior, expectations for behavior, norms of behavior, appropriateness, ways of learning, all those things that become part of that environment. And then those cultures intersect with what you might be coming from or going toward as you're learning a language. So Claire Crouch says that the culture is not an expendable fifth skill. We don't talk about 4 skills the way we used to, but it's not an expendable fifth skill. It's incorporated throughout. And that's helpful, but I still think it's really important for us to have clear definitions for what we're talking about when we say we're teaching culture. And this is how I break it down. So I say there's cultural knowledge, there is a cross-cultural experience that you can have, then there are intercultural skills that you are developing through that cross-cultural experience that is drawing upon and also adding to your cultural knowledge. And then also we have this component of the attitudes, because the attitudes become a filter for all of those things happening. So if you're shut down in your attitudes and you meet someone different from you and you say, well, that's weird, or I'm uncomfortable, you're not going to learn, you're not going to develop intercultural skills, you're not going to be as willing to use the skills that you have, you're not going to grow as well as someone who goes in with curiosity and openness and has skills of exploring those cultural differences in a positive way. And so this gives us a way to sort of pinpoint what it is that we're working on. I really want to be clear about separating cultural knowledge from the skill set. Now, the other piece that I see a lot when people are teaching culture is that they will mention the input or the topic or the content, but there's no task. They don't clarify what it is that they want the learners to actually do. What is it that they are getting from this? And so if you're familiar with map talk, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the comprehension-based approaches and how popular map talks are right now because of the wonderful Ben Tinsley, who I like a lot, but he talks about map talks every time. But so maps, okay, we can do all kinds of things maybe with maps. We can certainly go into Google Maps and explore and go down a street and see what it looks like to walk down a street in a given country, but that's not a task. What are you asking learners to do at that point? What are you holding them accountable for? What is driving their learning forward? And so we have this piece of the intercultural potential, and also that we're developing skills and not just knowledge, but also what is the activity? What is the task that you're actually having them do? And so if you're using a task-based framework, it's not a big leap to go from a good task-based framework to a task that has the intercultural spin on it. And so if you're not operating in a communicative approach, and particularly not using a task-based approach now, it's going to be a bigger leap to really be using good intercultural tasks. If you are using a task-based approach, it's a very small step. And you really shouldn't be ignoring culture, because anything you're doing that's truly communicative is going to have a cultural component, intercultural component. But so here we have a map, but I'm giving you a suggestion. A better way to work with maps might be to use something like story maps. So speaking of technology, here is a site where you can go in and create a curated journey where each step on that journey is a little bit like a blog post. And so there are points on the map and they move through those. And this is something that you could create for your students and do lots of activities around it. You could have your students create something like this, and their output, their actual task is to create the text of each one of these. And that's much more specific in terms of what we're having them do. So we can have them do that presentational writing that they're doing to produce the text of each one of these stories, but also do speaking activities around that when they exchange those with each other, or when they give responses to each other's, or you can say, you know, here's a kind of a quest and go explore the others and see what they find. So that is story maps. And the point I'm making here is that at this point, it's much more motivated. And not only that, but we're not just saying, we will look at small towns. We're saying the theme here is what makes a small town special. And that gives you something intercultural to grasp onto. What is it you really want to address? You can really sink your teeth into that question, that concept, and then make a case for what makes a particular town special. That's very different from just describing a town. So I like this visual a lot because it talks about, it gives you verbs to think about. So if you're really not sort of grasping what those skills might be that you'd want to be developing in your learners, these are definitely skills you want to see them using. You want to see them noticing, comparing, reflecting, interacting. And if you're seeing them do those things in regard to cultural boundaries, in regard to cultural differences, then you're seeing intercultural competence happening, and hopefully you're seeing it growing over time. And so because of that cycle, this is the way I usually teach the savoir, the components of intercultural competence. So ACTFL has guidelines, can-do statements for that. They're not very helpful for planning. I'm going to try to give you something that I think is a little more helpful for planning. So again, I said that a task-based framework works well for this. And so the way I teach this is that I teach it as a cycle, and the cycle can start in different places, but for each time you build a task, there are certain things that are components of that task that you need to have in place. And so one is, what is this topic? And is it actually intercultural? What is intercultural about it? What do you want to bring forward? What do you want the learners to get out of it and notice that is this intercultural component? So like I said, not just a small town, but what makes a small town special. And then the stimuli. So what material are you giving so that they can have this kind of cross-cultural experience around that topic? So it could be narratives of that town, descriptions of that town, images of that town. The observation, what are you asking to do with it, with those stimuli? And then the application, what is the task? So now we're getting more productive with it. We're doing something where we investigate or interact. We're doing presentational speaking or presentational writing. We're doing interpersonal speaking. And so this is where you're also seeing those different communicative modes come in. And so you're not going to have one activity for one communicative mode. You're going to have multiple communicative modes in a task like this, but you're going to tie them together. You're going to exploit the same input in multiple ways. And then what you're also going to do is both debrief the activity and reflect on the activity. And this is something that I haven't seen in any other texts that really emphasize this point, to separate out debriefing and reflection. And so debriefing is when you're saying, what did everybody find? What did we all get out of that? That's when you solidify what you wanted them to have noticed and learned. And then reflection is more this sort of metacognitive reflection on the development of intercultural competence. And so at that point, you can switch to the native language because they're probably not able to talk about those things in their additional language. You go back to the native language and really do that deeper level of what is emerging. And also you can have a lot of the same things happen if you're not teaching a language. I'm giving you resources for that too in the list of resources. But those components should all be there in a strong task. And then also when you're planning the task, you don't always start at point A and move to the end. You could start with knowing that you had this video that you really like and you want to do something with that video. And then you're talking about that stimulus. And then you're filling in the rest of the blanks on what that task is going to look like. Does that make sense? And so you might start with the application. You might say, and that's what we're going to do in a minute. We're going to do interviews. And so the interviews would fall into the application area because that's more your productive interpersonal communication. And so then we'd say, well, we want to do interviews. So let's back up and see what content and stimuli and observation we want happening to scaffold doing those interviews. Or we might do a series of these where the interviews then become content for the next thing, or the way we present what we've gathered through those interviews becomes the next thing. All right, so then when we talk about technology, since we're a small group and we're moving fast, I'm going to skip over this, but there's so many ways that technology makes a difference in how we're able to make these things happen. You could do this entirely without technology, but there are many, many things that technology makes possible that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So do you want to just unmute real quick and tell me what's a couple things that come to mind that are things you would be able to do because of technology in terms of teaching interculturally that you wouldn't be able to do without technology, or that we couldn't do before we had the technology we have now?
Telecollaboration.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
actually matching students together with native speakers so that they can get those cultural questions answered.
Right. And telecollaboration, class by class, there's a lot of support for finding classes and doing that in a very structured way, class by class, but then also a lot of apps. We were right next to, oh no, I'm not doing this. Conversify and not Talk Abroad, but what's the other one that's similar to Talk Abroad? They're not Talk Abroad. They were so great. Now I feel like terrible. I can't name drop them. But they have conversation partners for you. And they have stickers I made that said, I'm not a chatbot. I teach humans to talk to humans. And they loved it because they might allow for AI feedback on a conversation, but it's about talking to a human, and they provide the humans. And so when you contract with them, it's not class by class, but it is the student paired with someone who is trained to interact with that student. And so that's the kind of thing that just wasn't even available. So you start thinking about who the students would talk to, and the teacher is the only person they can talk to in Chinese. And then now you can set them up with these partners and get so much more conversation practice. But when we talk about the sources, access to content, that's a huge part of it. Many, many things that we can use as content for teaching culture. And then we talk about output. So these are things that we can create and ask students to create, all of which are perfectly good communicative language teaching ways to produce language and share what we produce, but then they can have this intercultural component to them that you can exploit. And then with interaction, that you have all of these ways of interacting. So you access more input, you have ways of sharing what you create and putting it out there into the world. That can then be a basis for interaction. You have many, many more ways of interacting. And these are not particular apps. I did that on purpose. I'm not talking about particular apps. I'm talking about ways of, I'm talking about means of having these interactions. And there's been so much discussion of telecollaboration and multiplayer games and discussion boards. And in the research that we have on the impact of interaction with technology on learning, usually they are doing those things. There's not as much research on the more innovative things that are happening now. Certainly not very much on what working with an AI does to your learners, how beneficial it is. But we're starting to move that way, right? Not just like, oh shucks, I tried this and the students liked it, and into what impact does it really have. So the other thing that's different is that when we start introducing all of these ways of communicating, these aren't just things we do in classrooms. These are things we're using out in the world to interact with people, and they create their own contexts of interaction. They create their own spaces for interaction. They create their own cultures. And so when you talk about WeChat in China, for example, WeChat has ways of communicating that are considered appropriate or inappropriate. It structures the kinds of interactions that you have and the relationships that you can form. So it has an impact on the development of community. It has its own cultural norms. And we might want to teach learners how to use something like WeChat because that is going to help them to interact with people from China, right? Lee, am I on track with that? So then going back to the framework that I gave you, I'm going to give you a topic here. So we're going to talk about professions and careers. But what did I say about a topic? It's inert. What's the intercultural? What can we do that's more intercultural here? What's something that we can sink our teeth into that's more of an exploration? How to get beyond it just being just a topic and get into something that would reveal cultural norms, values, beliefs, practices.
Create a scenario? Is that what you mean?
Could be. But what might we, so let's say we're going to interview people, what would we be looking for? So not just what is your career, but what are some deeper things we could be looking at? So I think, sorry, this is really familiar to me. And so I think there are things that jump to mind for me because it's familiar content and I'm putting them on the spot. But if we say that a lot of the intercultural element is what do people believe? How are beliefs different? Or what do they value? How are values different? Or practices and procedures, how are those different? If you say, well, how do you choose a career? How do you get on a certain pathway? Which careers are more prestigious or less prestigious? So when I was in Norway, I remember being really struck by a teenager telling me about becoming a mechanic. And the way he talked about becoming a mechanic in Norway was completely different from the way that I would have expected to hear a teenager in the US talking about becoming a mechanic. And so when we look at professions and careers, it's not just that we learn words for professions or even about the school system that might lead to a particular career or profession. We actually start getting into which professions or careers are valued, or what kinds of advice we give to young people, or how people feel about their own careers. That's much richer in terms of the intercultural exploration, and actually a lot more interesting when we're forming relationships with people. Those are the kinds of questions we really want to get into with people. It's not just what do you do, but we want to get beyond that eventually. And so what if we just say the right job for you? And so that's the topic, as opposed to just professions, but what's the right job for you? And so this could be a whole unit, many, many different tasks tied together related to this. And one idea that I have is to give students a personality indicator and then have them react to it and talk about it in the target language. And so I'm not going to play the whole video for you, but this is an example of an indicator, and you could do it in English and then have out it in their target language. So if it's not available in your target language, you could still do something like that, where they're reflecting on their own aptitudes and career choices. But
wanted to be an astronaut.
Surely I do not have to play the whole thing. Come on.
But you.
All right. Moving forward. Don't make me go out of the whole thing to get back to. This is when, see, this is the other thing I was going to make a point about, is that the more technology you try to fit into a presentation, the more likely you're going to run into a moment when it does not do what you expect it to do. All right, moving on. Okay, so the next question is, what task would you do from this? So like I said, you don't want to just give them the topic, you want to give them a really clear task to do with that. And so we're going to jump to saying, let's do interviews. So we're going to build these activities around interviews. So among the things that I'm giving you as resources are a set of protocols. And so you can read through those protocols, and there are interviews, debates, role plays, and discussions that you can use as guidelines for setting up an activity in that framework, where you could do that over and over again with different topics, but you're setting up in that framework in a way that taps into the intercultural potential of using interviews in your classroom, or the intercultural potential of using debates in your classroom. So I'm going to give you that. That's another handout. It's on my website. But for this one, we want to think, all right, what are the components of that task if we're going to do something with interviews? So like I said, we started with, sorry, that's what that looks like, the handout. So we started with the interviews. That's the first decision we made, is that we wanted to do something with interviews. And then we also now need to think, well, what else are we going to give them? So what kinds of things might scaffold their ability to carry out an interview? So maybe listening to interviews, maybe reading articles about careers, maybe exploring infographics about careers, taking an aptitude test, observing people. That all of those would give you input and have them do something with that. And then it gets them into that content, but then it also scaffolds the language they need to carry out those interviews. And then we want to make sure we complete the cycle. So we're going to dive into this content. We're going to have the interpretive activities. We're going to have the interpersonal activities. We're going to come back to the class with specific things we're bringing back to the classroom from our each person's interviews. We're going to put the results of all those interviews together. And then we're going to ask students to reflect on that whole experience, doing the interviews, sharing their interview results in the reflection phase. And so that's to give you an example of how that whole cycle works. That you can start your decision making in different places, and that it should scaffold the language they're using. It should have a very clear task. It should bring them back together. You're comparing your results, and then you're doing the reflective piece. All right. All of these pieces that you might do when you're doing an interview can be enriched or made easier using technology. So at this point, we're pulling out just that interview piece and we're saying, what does it take to make an interview piece go well? And so you're going to brainstorm questions ahead of time. You're going to practice interview skills somehow. You're going to actually conduct the interviews, maybe in person, maybe online, maybe you bring in a virtual visitor. You're going to reflect and you're going to record and transcribe. So right now I'm transcribing this with my otter.ai, and that's a good tool to use. My students use it all the time for interview-based projects. And then you share and compile results. So where are you going to put the results of the interviews, or where are you going to put the reports that they bring back, or the charts they fill out based on the interviews? And then how are you going to do your group reflection? And all of those, you have choices for using technology for that. Now, AI. All right, many ways that AI can come into play on this one. One of them is that you can go somewhere like Extempore, and they now have, sorry, I'm totally shilling for Extempore. I'm going to admit it. I like them a lot, and I think this is fun. If you go to a wide open AI and talk to a chatbot, then they don't really know proficiency levels. They don't really know communicative modes. They don't really know what the tool can do. And so if you go to Ask Tempo, then it does, and it will do it in your language and say, here's a good activity that you could do given the affordances of this app. And it speaks actual proficiency levels, it speaks communicative modes, all of those things too. So you do not have to use Extempore, but if you want to, that's available. Now with an AI partner, if you're going to talk to an AI and ask an AI to help you with this, you have to be pretty clever about how you prompt the AI. So when you go to Claude AI or ChatGPT, sometimes you just go in and chat and you just say, look, this is what I want you to do. And then you move on from there. So you'll notice that here I just started talking, but then I said, when I say, do you mind if I ask you some interview questions? That's when I want you to go into character as for this role play. The other way to do it is if you are using like the console for Claude AI, or you're in ChatGPT and you can set a system prompt, then what you can do is go in and you're basically creating an app for yourself. So you're going in and you're saying in the system prompt, Claude, I want you to play the role of this person. And so the user is going to ask you questions in the target language, and you're going to respond in these particular ways. And I'll show you what I have done in prompts to set that up. But that way you set up the system prompt, and then the user, so your student, when they go in and actually go to chat with the AI, use the target language and only say things that they would say in that interview context. And the AI knows to respond in that role. The fun part is you can have the AI also make up the roles, also make up the questions to be asked, also translate back and forth between the two, also compile the results of that and give you some kind of materials or summaries or activities based on the results of that. It gets a pretty deep mind adventure if you want to think of all the things that it can do with that. But you still have to be thinking. You still have to be thinking about what they should be getting out of this and what they should be noticing, and some subtle things like, what does politeness look like? And when do we use formal versus informal? And does the AI know that? And is the AI making assumptions about people in creating these personas that really don't show good inclusion and equity, for example? I went in and said, give me some, anyway, I went and said, give me a woman, a man, and a non-binary character, so we can see non-binary forms. There were several things like that where I was on the surface trying to get more inclusion, but also you don't want them to make assumptions. So for example, with AI, you often have something where we know this, that the wording associated with female gender tends to be derogatory toward females. And the wording associated with male gender tends to be speaking of males as powerful and strong. The AI does that because it's feeding on the content of all of the internet, and we don't have to encourage it. So that's where you as the instructor are still a very, very important decision maker and filter for the messages that come across in your classroom. And that's not just teaching intercultural competence, that's teaching culturally responsive pedagogy and culturally sustaining pedagogy. And so don't lose that piece as you're focusing on the intercultural piece and on the possibilities of what you might do with these tools. You still have to be your own filter for what is appropriate for your learners to be seeing and understanding. And if something comes up and you ask the AI something and you get a weird response, talk about it. It becomes a source of reflection. It becomes something for you to learn from. And so one thing I did is I actually asked Claude if Claude likes Claude's job. And Claude said, well, I don't really experience emotions the way that humans experience emotions. I'm not human. But I find, what did it say? It didn't say fulfilling. I want you to, you try it. You go to your own AI and put in there a personal question like this to the AI. And
Dr.
so that's,
Lanier,
yes, we need to wrap up.
yes.
Okay, yeah. So these are things that we would go into more depth on if I were actually teaching the whole course with you. That we'd go into ways of doing reflections, and we would go into some ways that we can do those reflections. But this is the end, actually. So just this quick review of these key ideas that I wanted you to take away. That cultural knowledge is not intercultural competence. It includes, attitudes and skills, ICC does. That we can develop it at home or abroad and provide opportunities for ICC to develop. And the technology not only expands our access to cultural input, but it also changes the competencies we need to teach and even generates cultures for us to navigate. So I will leave you with those thoughts to ponder and the promise that it would take an entire course to go into the depth that we'd want, maybe a few. But I hope that it's given you some inspiration today and some ideas for things that you could try. So lots of links in the slides that you can explore later.